Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are planting our feet firmly in the present moment. It's Saturday, January 17th, 2026. And I have to say, if you have been anywhere near a screen in the last 48 hours, you've seen the rumors.
Oh, you can't miss them. It's the viral story that just will not die.
It's everywhere.
It is practically the only thing trending. The internet is in a complete meltdown over this idea that Canada, a founding member of the G7, a NATO stalwart.
America's most polite neighbor.
Exactly, is apparently packing its bags and joining BRICS.
Right. It just sounds like a glitch in the simulation. You see these threads claiming Canada is pivoting east, ditching the west, shaking hands with Russia and Iran. It's just wild stuff.
It is.
But, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Or at least a very overheated toaster.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to figure out what's really going on. Is the house burning down, or is this all just internet noise?
That is the perfect question. And to answer it, we're not going to rely on hot takes from social media. We're doing a deep dive into a comprehensive strategic report that just came out this week from Dr. Farid Novin.
Okay.
It's titled Canada's Strategic Diversification, but honestly, it reads less like a dry policy paper and more like a survival guide for a country under siege.
A survival guide.
Yeah.
That sounds a little intense.
It is intense because the report argues that Canada is caught in this geopolitical vice. On one side, you've got the viral rumors about BRICS, this pull towards the east.
Really?
But on the other side, and this is the part that really hurts, you have the absolute sledgehammer of U.S. tariffs that have been pounding the Canadian economy for a full year now.
And stuck right in the middle is this new strategy the report talks about, the global vault.
Exactly. It's a strategy to turn rocks into leverage.
Global vault. I like the branding on that. It sounds expensive. But, okay, before we get to the solution, we have to understand the problem. Let's tackle the elephant in the room first. Is Canada actually joining BRICS? Is there any truth to this at all?
Well, it's a mass hallucination, but, and this is crucial, it's a hallucination based on a very real, very deep anxiety. So let's look at the hard facts first. Dr. Novin's report is incredibly blunt on this. There is no official Canadian government policy to join BRICS. There is no secret application sitting on a desk in Ottawa.
So all the fact checkers are right. It's fake news.
Technically, yes, but we need to peel back the layers here. Why did this rumor even start? If you go back to August 2025, so about 5 months ago, you started seeing this surge of chatter, mostly on alternative media blogs.
Right.
And the narrative was that Canada, feeling crushed by the U.S. trade war, needed a counterweight. And if you're looking for a counterweight to the G7, well, BRICS is the only other game in town.
It makes sense as a story. If your best friend starts bullying you, you go hang out with the other clique just to make a point.
Precisely. But the report explains why membership is structurally impossible for Canada. You have to remember who's in BRICS. It's not just Brazil and India. It's Russia. It's Iran.
And we're in NATO. We're in NORAD.
We're in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. You can't share top-secret satellite data with the Pentagon in the morning and then sit down for a strategic planning session with Tehran in the afternoon.
The systems are just incompatible.
The report calls them irreconcilable political contradictions.
Which is a very polite diplomatic way of saying you can't ride two horses going in opposite directions.
Right, without splitting your pants.
Yeah. Okay, so we aren't joining the club. We're not getting a membership card. But... and this feels like but Dr. Novin's report suggests we are definitely hanging out in the club's parking lot, aren't we?
That's the perfect analogy. The report uses a specific term for this. It calls it constructive ambiguity.
Constructive ambiguity. That sounds like something you say when you don't want to answer a question on a first date.
In high-stakes diplomacy, that is exactly what it is. It means Canada isn't joining BRICS institutionally. We're not signing up for the anti-Western politics. But we are aggressively, and I mean aggressively, pursuing bilateral trade with the individual heavy hitters in BRICS.
Specifically, China and India.
Exactly. So we want the markets, we just don't want the label. It's a bilateral strategy, not a bloc strategy.
Okay, that clarifies the what. But we have to get to the why. Because Canada has been, historically glued to the U.S. economy. We're economically married. Why are we suddenly scrambling to find new partners?
Well, just look at the calendar. It's January 2026. We are exactly 1 year into the second Trump administration. And to put it mildly, the honeymoon is over.
There never was a honeymoon.
No, it's been rough. The report calls it an unprecedented period of trade disruption. And if you look at the timeline, it's just been a steady escalation of pain.
It started almost immediately.
President Trump took office last January. By February 2025, the initial tariffs were rolling out. But the real hammer dropped in August.
That was when the base rate hit 35%, right?
Yes, a blanket 35% on all non-USMCA imports. But then, just a few months ago in October, we got hit with sector-specific tariffs. Softwood lumber, furniture. Some of those duties are pushing 50%.
Hold on, 50%. If I'm a furniture maker in Quebec and I have to pay a 50% tax just to get my chairs across the border, I'm out of business.
It's effectively a trade embargo by another name. You simply can't compete. And the report details the fallout. It's not abstract. General Motors had to cut shifts at the Oshawa plant.
Right.
Algoma Steel announced significant layoffs. It's real jobs.
And it's not just goods moving across the border, right? It's people, too.
Tourism is bleeding. Cross-border traffic into New York State was down 21% by the middle of last year. People just aren't crossing. They're not spending.
Which explains this massive shift in public opinion. There's a stat in this report that it blew my mind. 91% of Canadians now support reducing economic dependence on the U.S.
91%. You can't get 91% of people to agree on pizza toppings.
Right. That's a monolithic consensus.
And that consensus gives Prime Minister Carney a huge political mandate. He has political cover to do things that would have been suicide 5 years ago. He has to pivot. The public is demanding it.
Okay, so the house is on fire. We need an exit strategy. And the report says that strategy is built on rocks.
Very specific, very expensive rocks. This brings us to the global vault strategy.
Let's unpack this, because Canada has always had rocks. We've been digging stuff up and selling it forever. What's so different about this?
The difference is the shift from passive extraction to active investment. For decades, the model was simple. Let a multinational come in, dig up the lithium, pay the government a small royalty, and ship the raw ore somewhere else, usually China.
So we were just the quarry. We sold the ingredients, but someone else cooked the meal and sold it for 10 times the price.
Exactly. The Global Vault flips that. In April 2025, the government launched the Critical Minerals Sovereign Fund, the CMSF. It's got about 2 billion Canadian dollars to start, and it really kicks into gear this fiscal year.
And this fund isn't just giving out grants, right?
Oh, and this is the really controversial part. The government is taking equity stakes. They are buying ownership in the mining projects, in the supply chains.
Okay, but why does the government need to own it? Why not just let the private sector handle it?
Leverage. Pure and simple. If you just collect a royalty, you don't control where the metal goes. The company sells to the highest bidder. If you hold equity, you have a seat at the table. You can dictate terms.
I see.
The goal is to make Canada the global vault for the energy transition. We have the big five of the new economy: lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and uranium.
The periodic table of the future.
It really is. You can't build an EV, a fighter jet, or a wind turbine without these things. By owning the assets, Canada turns these rocks into geopolitical capital.
So walk me through a scenario. How does this help with the tariff problem?
Okay, so imagine a German car company needs guaranteed access to cobalt. In the old days, they'd buy it on the market. Now, Canada can say, sure, we can guarantee that supply because the government owns a piece of the mine. But in return, we want a long-term trade deal. We want you to build a battery factory in Ontario.
Ah, I see. It gives Canada a bargaining chip that isn't dependent on the U.S. market. It lets them bypass the U.S. entirely if they have to.
It's a bold play. But if you're going to pivot away from the U.S., you need somewhere to pivot to. And this brings us back to those new friends.
The safe pivot and the risky pivot. Let's start with the safe one, India.
It's just incredible how fast this relationship changed. Do you remember 2023, the accusations around the Nijar assassination?
Oh, absolutely. It was a diplomatic deep freeze. It looked completely broken.
It was ice cold. But look where we are now, January 2026. India is the chair of BRICS this year. And back in October, PM Carney and PM Modi had that meeting at the APEC summit. The report calls it the turning point.
So the reset button was really pressed. Why?
Mutual necessity. India's theme for their BRICS chairmanship is building for resilience. They are focused on massive infrastructure projects. They want to build roads and power grids.
And to do that, they need Canadian minerals and, I'm guessing, Canadian money.
Canadian pension funds. They are massive global investors. India needs capital. Canada needs a market that isn't the United States. It's a perfect match.
And why is this the safe pivot?
Because Washington tolerates it. This is key. India is part of the Quad with the U.S., Japan, and Australia. The U.S. sees India as a vital counterweight to China. So if Canada gets closer to India, the White House might raise an eyebrow, but they won't flip the table.
But then there's the risky pivot. China.
Yes. This is the Highwire Act without a net. Prime Minister Carney was just in China this month, first visit by a Canadian PM since 2017.
That's a massive diplomatic signal. You don't go to Beijing just for a photo op, not now.
No, you go to survive. The report confirms he came back with reduced tariffs on canola and new agreements on EVs. He has this goal to double non-U.S. trade within a decade.
He's trying to resuscitate that relationship because if the U.S. door is closing, we have to open the Chinese door.
Exactly. But this is where the report gets very cautious. You can't just cozy up to China in 2026 without the U.S. noticing. There are red lines.
There are. And the U.S. is not sleeping through this. They have drawn very specific, very dangerous lines in the sand.
So what happens if we cross them?
Well, let's look at tech. The U.S. has made it crystal clear. No mineral agreements with BRICS nations that include technology transfer, specifically on AI or quantum computing.
So we can sell China the lithium rock, but we can't teach them how to process it with our new AI systems.
Exactly. The U.S. views that tech as a national security asset. If Canada shares it with China, the U.S. has threatened to kick us out of the CHIPS Act supply chain.
Whoa. Being cut out of the CHIPS Act, that would devastate the Canadian tech sector.
It would be catastrophic. It is the biggest stick the U.S. is holding.
And there's a financial red line, too, isn't there?
Yes. They've warned against using BRICS Pay or any of these de-dollarization tools. Canadian banks need access to U.S. dollar clearing to function. If we mess with that, our financial system grinds to a halt.
So let me get this straight. We are pivoting to China to save our economy from U.S. tariffs. But if we pivot too hard, the U.S. just destroys our economy anyway.
That is the definition of a Highwire Act. And the wind is picking up because there is a looming deadline that makes this all even scarier.
The USMCA review.
July 2026. 6 months from now. The trade agreement that replaced NAFTA is up for a joint review.
And we know Trump loves leverage.
He lives for it.
Yeah.
If he thinks Canada is being disloyal by pivoting to Beijing, he could use that review to blow the whole agreement up.
So this constructive ambiguity works right up until July. Then the bill comes due.
That's the fear. The report also mentions the currency risk, the loonie.
What happens to our dollar in all this?
It's volatile. The report warns that if Canada moves too fast, the loonie could drop 3 to 5% in the short term. Investors hate uncertainty.
But is there any upside?
There's a potential long-term one. If the global vault strategy works, if the world starts seeing the Canadian dollar as a currency backed by essential minerals, it could actually strengthen.
Like a petrodollar, but for batteries. A mineral dollar.
Exactly. It moves from being tied to the price of oil to being tied to the future of technology. That's the dream scenario.
It's just a fascinating shift. We're watching a country try to rewrite its economic DNA in real time.
Under extreme pressure. And I think that's the key takeaway here. We started this asking about a rumor, is Canada joining BRICS? And the answer is no. But the reality is almost more dramatic.
We aren't joining BRICS, but we are using BRICS members as a life raft because our main ship, the U.S. relationship, is taking on water.
Yes. Dr. Novin's report frames it not as a geopolitical betrayal, but as a survival strategy. When the elephants fight, the grass gets trampled. Canada's trying to get off the grass.
It's like we're trying to keep our marriage to NATO intact while having a very public business partnership with the people our spouse hates.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, the goal isn't to leave the West. It's just insurance.
Right.
So for everyone listening, what are the dates we need to circle on the calendar? What happens next?
You need to watch 2 months, June and July 2026.
We know July is the USMCA review. What's happening in June?
The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to rule on the president's tariff authority. There's a massive legal case challenging whether he can even do this to a security ally like Canada.
Oh, that is huge. If the court rules against him.
The whole tariff landscape could just vanish overnight. The pressure drops, the balloon deflates.
But if they rule for him?
Then the tariffs are legal, they're permanent, and the pressure on Canada to find new markets becomes existential. The pivot isn't a choice anymore, it's a necessity.
It really feels like 2026 is the defining year for the next generation of this country.
I think that's a fair assessment. The decisions made in Ottawa over the next 6 months will determine Canada's place in the world for the next 20 years.
This leaves us with a final provocative thought. We talked about constructive ambiguity, this diplomatic tightrope walk. It sounds clever in a report, it sounds smart in a boardroom. But with that USMCA review coming and the U.S. watching every move we make,
You have to ask the question.
is constructive ambiguity a brilliant masterstroke of 21st century diplomacy? Or is it just a fancy way of saying we are walking blindfolded into an American red line?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. And honestly, I have a feeling we'll be back here in July to discuss the answer.
Dr. Noven's report certainly gives us the roadmap to watch. Thank you for guiding us through this today. It's a lot to process, but I feel much better equipped to read the news tomorrow.
My pleasure. It's a complex world out there.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning into this deep dive. Stay curious, watch the headlines, and stay tuned as 2026 unfolds. We'll see you next time.